pass out a sheet that gives you my background. And then some of the tips, I'm going over the job tips today, are on the back of the paper. That will go through a little bit more in depth. I'm very open to questions while I'm speaking. You're not going to bother me at the end. I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions because everybody knows here, I hope you know, what's the average attention span of a human being? It's about 20 minutes. So we'll try to cover some of these things and then take your questions. What's the age group here? Freshman, sophomore, graduating? Okay. Anybody been interviewing lately? Doing any interviews? Summer interviews? Summer jobs, that sort of thing? Okay. You can see that I graduated from NAU 1984. This building obviously wasn't here. I lived in Seacrest, which I think is still around. We used to call it the zoo. I spent 3 years there and I still graduated. So there is hope for you if you're not somebody that's really good in school. Some of the interesting things that I found out, I bought a staffing company about 5.5 years ago after I was a financial advisor for almost 15 years. The staffing companies allowed me to see what type of people come in for jobs and what employees and employers are looking for in a job. We're kind of a middleman. Our customer is the employee, meaning somebody like you, and the employer, somebody like that would be at the company, either their upper management or it could be even somebody that has a small business. Some of the things that I've written down, if you flip over to the back, and some of the issues that I find in job hunting. Job hunting, interviewing is just like everything else. I mean, you would not buy a set of golf clubs and go down to Pine Valley and just tee it up without any lessons. It's the same thing in the job searching market, same thing in the interview market. There's very few people that give you coaching on interviewing that really know about interviewing. I mean, you have to do it a lot to get good at it. You also have to practice it. It's a acquired skill. And I can tell you, most people that get the good jobs aren't necessarily the best candidate. They're the best interviewer. Kind of like when, if you're a good test taker, it helps. One of the first things that we notice when people come into the office is dress. I can't emphasize to you how important that is. And that depends on where you're going to look for a job. If you're going to be a truck driver, clean clothes is fine. You don't have to look like you're going to the prom. If you're coming in for a sales position, you better have a professional look. That means you might not have to wear a tie, but you have to have a pressed shirt. You have to have shoes that look like you weren't playing soccer with a 18-pound bowling ball. Excluding the ladies. I mean, you want to make sure that everything looks very clean. No revealing clothes. That's another thing, especially for the ladies. Piercings, take them out. I've interviewed people that have tongue studs and banged them on their bridge work the entire interview. Now, it doesn't distract me because I already have a job. I'm just amazed that I could sit there and watch that for, 25 minutes. So be cognizant of the fact that that's something that you need to pay attention to. Another thing I'd like to bring up is the printing clearly. I've got horrible printing, so I have to take a long time to write stuff. My son who's here is even worse. He looks like a doctor when he writes. Chicken scratch. You need to practice those things before you go in to write, because people are going to be looking at that. Maybe when they're in front of you or maybe later. If they can't read it, they've got a stack of other things that they're going to be having to read, and they're just going to skip over it. So you want to make sure that you're legible and take your time to do that. And take your job history, schooling, whatever interesting things about you, and have that written out in advance. copy it down real quick and don't have to think about it. So you're ready to go in and fill out that application for the interview. Be nice to everyone, cordial. Because if you're flippant with the receptionist, because there'll be a lot of questions people have to ask now when you go in looking for a job. You know, you need to have Social Security cards or passport. You need to have a second form of ID, like a driver's license. In Arizona, that stuff's required. And companies are going to want to see that first. So make sure you have it with you, because everybody's going to ask for it. If you're going in for something that requires you have a degree, make sure you bring your transcripts. Have all that information ready to go out when you apply for any job. Even if you're going for a summer job, make sure you have those IDs with you. Your paperwork that says you're a citizen or what have you, because they do have to run you when you're getting hired. Another thing I like to talk about is looking people in the eye when you're talking to them. There's a lot of people that do not enjoy public speaking. Anybody in here that like to public speak? Well, be prepared to get pulled into a room with 3 or 4 people at a company to interview. You want to get really shook up in a hurry? Try panel interview with like 4 people that are looking to ask you questions, you know, rapid fire. While one's asking you a question, the other's listening for the answer, so they can come up with another question. So you need to be prepared for those type of events. But look at people in the eye and not staring off into space, scratching yourself, or whatever, is not going to be a good idea in those type of events. Another thing I can't emphasize enough is sending a personal thank you note. And that doesn't mean an email. I prefer you get cards and you handwrite it. Another thing to make that more personal is when you wander into the office of who's ever interviewing you or in the building, notice things in the office that they have. Like, if you come to my office, you know I'm a big Arizona Cardinals fan, and they're going to the Super Bowl. Okay, so that's something you might want to write in a thank you note. Hey, I hope the Cardinals win the Super Bowl. Or maybe they play golf. You know, something that you can ask a question about and be interested in. You don't want to run in and go, hey, I hope the Steelers kick the Cardinals' butt. That's not going to get you a really good, you know, vibe with the guy. So look for something that can tie you, because if somebody doesn't send a thank you note, or maybe there's 3 or 4 people send an email, and you send a personal note, and it has something in there that can register with that individual, that can help you get an edge up on somebody else. Turn off your cell phone. I cannot tell you how many times I've interviewed people, and I mean people all the way from labor positions all the way to management positions, that bring a cell phone and forget to turn it off. It rings some kooky Blue Man Group banger, banging on the trash can music right in the middle of the interview, and it distracts everything. The other thing is even worse would be to answer right during the middle of the interview. And it's happened a bunch of times. I can tell you what's happening right now. You're getting next time. So if it was me, I'd keep my cell phone in the car. How many people bring their cell phone at the interview? Okay. How many people bring it to class and forget to turn it off and it rings during class? Okay. You don't want to do that. Remember, those people are just eliminating themselves. Makes the pool makes it a little more likely that you're going to be able to get a job. Somebody else won't. I generally work off a 10-point scale. When you come into the office, I start with 10 points. I take points off for that. I would take